Robots Radio presents
Fresh Tomatoes, the movie podcast.
Hey, I can look at myself naked.
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work.
He likes to create his own sauce.
Well, did you sleep with a man who also slept with Mom and Grandma Catherine?
What? You slept with Dad?
Alright, which one of you sardines called this meat?
Whatever, Major Loser.
Let the party begin!
Hello, and welcome to Fresh Tomatoes, the movie podcast, the last episode of this fantastic podcast. That's Simone LaRue.
And that's Chad Ekowitz. This is one way to tell me that you no longer want to do the podcast with me.
I just want to see how much our listeners are actually listening to the podcast. I want them to get a shock. I want it to be like, I don't want them to take us for granted, you know? I want them to know that we could leave at any point without giving them any notice. I want them to feel threatened.
Wow, okay, that's a very aggressive stance to take on like all 5 of our listeners.
I'm coming in strong this week. I want to feel the love, and I want them to know that we are still in, even though we rely on them, we're still in control of the content. So I want them to understand that this is where this relationship lies.
Right.
It's not mutual at all. We can give and we can take away just much like they can. But without us, they don't get the content.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting stance.
I mean, you can see why I'm still single, right? I mean,
using like emotional blackmail to test people is always such a win in relationships. I don't understand.
I don't understand why more people don't do it. I mean,
women,
come on.
right?
How do you know that you're winning in the relationship if you don't use emotional blackmail?
And that's the goal of relationships, really, is to win.
Oh yeah, of course. Everything is a competition, especially relationships.
That's the next t-shirt.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, in truth, we do love you guys. There is no sort of mutual benefit or anything. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us, and we do love you, and that's not a threat. There's no animosity coming here. This is you come to here for love, and that is what we will give you. 2 movies at a time, and this week is no different. So what 2 movies are we touching this week?
So this week's theme is Happy Hour, where we talk booze related movies, and I think we picked 2 bangers to talk about today. We are doing the 1988 classic Cocktail with Tom Cruise, and then the early 2000s classic Coyote Ugly.
Oh man, it has been a week. I mean, I've never seen either of these films, so it's been eye-opening.
I watched Coyote Ugly probably when I was way too young to do it.
Yep.
And I guess in my head, I just sort of assumed that at some point I'd have to make money dancing on a bar. Preferably to Devil Went Down to Georgia, but I'm not gonna split hairs.
When they started playing that song, I was not ready for that. That came out of left field.
It's actually a great dance number.
It really is. But we'll get into that properly. Yeah. So, in light of this episode and sort of to pay homage to the beauty that is alcohol-based movies, we decided to drink actual cocktails this week. So, Simone, what is your cocktail?
So I'm having the usual, which is an old-fashioned. Did I leave the orange peel in there? Yes, people watching on YouTube. I did. I'm not ashamed.
You know what? You do things your own way, and no one can fault you for that.
And what have you put together for yourself? You always have some sort of exciting tropical creation.
Not tropical this week.
Ooh.
Not tropical this week. This week, so it's traditionally called The Godfather, which I thought was a delightful name, which is usually just 2 ingredients, which is whiskey and amaretto.
Oh, well,
I decided, I know, I'm going to be very drunk. But yes, I've realized that in this house, we do not have any normal whiskey. We have 3 different kinds of Jack Daniels. We've got the honey, the apple, and the fire whiskey, but we don't have normal whiskey. So this is a sweet Godfather because it's the honey Jack.
Okay. That sounds delicious.
So honey on top of amaretto, it's very sweet.
But I mean, how tasty. That sounds great.
Oh,
you're going to be all hopped up on sugar.
Oh, I'm going to be both really sleepy from the alcohol and really hyper from the sugar. It's going to be a weird episode, y'all.
So fun for us. Okay, well, why don't you go first then? We can get your movie out the way while your head's still a bit clear.
I think that's fair, and then I can just go sleepy sleeps when you do your movie.
Yeah,
Okay,
don't worry.
that
I'll
sounds
take
good.
it from there.
Okay, here we go. Oh, by the way, I'm doing cocktail. I don't know if we clarified that, but yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
I also kind of want to do it chronologically because I think both movies say very different things about the generations that they're talking about. And yeah, there's a lot to be said there. So I'm kind of glad we're doing it this way.
This is the right way to do it. Yeah. I think it was preordained. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Brian Flanagan, played by Tom Cruise, is a young, sexy veteran who wants to make it big in the New York City. He has big dreams of coming up with the next big business idea and making millions of dollars. However, this isn't as easy as it seems.
Who knew?
Upon arriving in Manhattan, I know, right? I heard that everyone who goes to Manhattan just makes it automatically.
Yeah, big city where dreams are made of.
There's nothing you can do. Upon arriving in Manhattan, he goes to Wall Street in search of a job. All the big firms reject him. He then looks for work in the advertising industry, but they all reject him for not having a college education. He continues to sink lower and lower until he stumbles across a bar with a help wanted sign in the window. He walks in and meets the manager, Doug Coughlin, played by Brian Brown. He's this wisecracking Australian guy filled with wit and wisdoms, which he imparts on everyone, even if they don't want him to. He decides to hire Brian, despite the fact that he has no experience and all the staff hate him. So, during the night, he bartends, and during the day, he attends business school to try and get some qualifications so that he can get that fancy Wall Street job and make his millions. But as time marches on, he realizes that working as a barman is way more fun. He starts to spend less time on his studies and more time at the bar, learning cool tricks like flipping bottles and sexily dancing around while flipping bottles. He and Coughlin get closer and closer together as well. One night, Brian has the idea to open up a bar with Coughlin called Cocktails and Dreams. Coughlin is open to the idea, but seeing as they have no money, he shoots it down. Brian, the ever hopeful, says that Brian, the ever hopeful, says that if they did 3 summer seasons down in Jamaica, they would make enough money to open up their bar. Coughlin still says no. During one of their crazy bartending nights, Brian meets a woman named Coral, played by Gina Gerson. They fall madly in love straight away. Coughlin believes that Coral is no good and is just using Brian as a sexy plaything. Brian disagrees. So, in order to be proven right, Coughlin seduces Coral. They have a massive fight and Brian leaves. Next thing we know, Brian is now in Jamaica, saving money for his dreams. That's when he meets Jordan Mooney, played by Elizabeth Shue.
The great, the one, the only.
The enigmatic Elizabeth Shue. Oh, what a babe. So they pretty much fall in love immediately. One day, out of nowhere, Coughlin shows up at the bar. Apparently, he's on his honeymoon, having just married a super rich woman named Carrie, played by Kelly Lynch. He is now living in the lap of luxury and boasts to Brian about his newfound fortune and how Brian was a schmuck for always working for his money instead of just marrying rich. Eventually, Coughlin goads Brian into hooking up with this super rich lady called Bonnie, played by Lisa Baines. Unfortunately, Jordan sees them fooling around and is heartbroken. She returns to New York without speaking to Brian. Eventually, Brian finds out that Jordan's left, but instead of rushing back to New York to apologize, he decides to become Bonnie's toy boy. She says she's going to speak to her sales team and try and get Brian a job, but in reality, they never do. Back in New York, however, things are not as Bonnie promised they would be. She orders him around and treats him more like an object than a person. Eventually, Brian has enough and leaves, returning to his oldest friend, Coughlin. Unfortunately, Coughlin has lost all of his money and is hiding this from his wife. Later that night, he kills himself. In a fit of sadness, Brian locates Jordan. Turns out she's actually super rich. Her dad doesn't want him speaking to her and tries to offer him $10,000, but he refuses. Eventually, he gets to speak to Jordan, but she doesn't want to talk to him either. She also reveals that she is pregnant and that the baby is his. There's lots of toing and froing at this point, and it's all pretty boring, but eventually, he apologizes to Jordan, says he'll look after the baby, and they run away together. A couple months down the line, and Brian is running his uncle's bar. It seems to be going pretty well, and he and Jordan seem happy. That's when she reveals that she's having twins. What? The end.
The American dream.
The American dream.
So 2 questions for each, Chad. 1, do you have the hippie shakes?
Do Simone, Simone, how could you even ask me if I have the hippie hippie shakes? Of course I have the hippie hippie shakes. Do you have the hippie hippie shakes?
I got the hippie hippie shakes. Shake it to the
Good.
left.
You'll all have the hippie hippie shakes.
And then my second question, what is your cliffhanger? What have you chosen from this glorious script?
You know, there are so many individual moments in this movie that could just stand apart. But one really stands out amongst all of them. And it's this one, which is the first poem.
Yes.
I hate this movie so much for this bullshit that goes down. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in this film.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. I think it's also, the poetry is really emblematic of like a white dude who has actually no talent at all, but keeps wondering why he doesn't get anything for being a mediocre white dude.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, that's literally the whole movie. Because, like, you know, the whole thing, like, he goes full circle because, like, he's like, oh, Dad, I'm too good to work at your bar. I've got to go be a millionaire. And then he just ends up working at another bar anyway, which, like, is somehow better.
Yeah.
Shocked that he needs a degree to get a job on Wall Street. Shocked and horrified. This poor guy, won't someone give him a chance? Like, so then he works at this bar and he loses that job because he like has a fight with the guy, and then immediately finds another job in Jamaica. So he's fine. And they're like, oh, this poor hardworking guy, can't he catch a break? And he does catch breaks. He catches several breaks. He just fucks them up every time. And you're supposed to be like, oh, I feel so sorry for poor handsome Tom Cruise who keeps being an asshole and facing the consequences, and then not.
Well, I mean, that's the great thing about this movie, though, isn't it? Because he does eventually just, like, lead this incredibly mediocre life. And I guess, like, the moral is that money doesn't bring you happiness, blah, 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 blah.
But they don't really push that home, do they?
No, they really don't. It's sort of just like, oh, well, he got everything he wanted. What a champion. What a guy. And I think this is probably where baby boomers got all of their issues, because it was sort of like, you know, this movie is emblematic of this whole idea of, you know, oh, we can get whatever we want whenever, and everything has to work out for us all the time, ever.
Exactly.
And you know, they look at us and wonder why we're so stressed and stuff, and it's just because we've realized that that's not the truth at all. They are still very delusioned.
I also think it's really interesting, this like sort of generational divide. I think very rarely in our generation now, or maybe I just live in a little bubble, this isn't like a statistical thing, but very rarely will our friends talk about how they want to be millionaires and they want to own yachts and, you know, live this crazy lifestyle. Like, most of us are just like, oh, I'd like to be able to live without roommates. I'd like to buy property someday. I'd like to be able to afford a nice wedding someday. I'd like to have a job I enjoy. Like, that's it. And I feel like, I don't know, the boomers, and I guess it's a little bit of Gen X as well, they were taught to expect the world, and that the world would just open to them and it would happen. It's really interesting to see.
It is, like, it's scary how the message has changed.
And
I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's a much more realistic message, which is fantastic. And I mean, to be fair on them in a weird, slight way, for the baby boomer generation, of course the world was open to them, so long as you were a white man. Like, the world was your oyster. I mean, I'm not saying things are that much different now, down with the patriarchy, but, you know, it was the truth for them. Like, they could get whatever they wanted very, very easily.
You just impress the right man at the right party, and there you go, you're sorted.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, like, Jeffrey Epstein kind of did what this guy did, but wasn't a complete this guy, Tom Cruise, wasn't a complete fucking sociopath pedophile. That's the only real difference between Jeffrey Epstein and Tom Cruise's character. Because Jeffrey Epstein got a job on Wall Street having no college degree. He lied about it. I think that's, again, the only other reason that Tom Cruise is different, because he didn't lie about not having a degree. He was very open about it. So, yeah, I mean, this movie, for all its flaws, and there are so very many, is actually a really open and honest look into the way baby boomers Psychoses work.
I would just say it's not as critical about it as
No.
they could be. Because they're like, no, he's right. He's right. He deserves another chance. Like, yeah, he knew that it would upset his girlfriend if he cheated on her with a rich lady. And yeah, he consistently is like, oh, I just need to scam some rich chick. And he wonders why his girlfriend is then like hesitant to get back together with him.
Mhm.
But you know, he's just a guy. He's just doing
Yeah.
guy things. Can't
He's
we
just-
all just give him a break, you guys?
You guys, he fought for our country, it's implied at the very beginning. He fought for them.
Yeah, and really,
He
wasn't it
deserves
the
everything.
girlfriend's fault a little bit for overreacting so heavily?
Of course it was. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he's just a young guy. That's what,
Yeah,
you know
what
what
was he
it is.
supposed to do?
It boils down to 4 simple words, Simone, and everyone should know this. Is that's just boys will be boys. That's 5 words. Boys will be boys. That's the way it is. That's the way it
You
is.
guys,
Oh,
just...
a little side note that might be of interest to everyone and raise their tiny little fists of anger, because that's what it did to me. So in UK criminal law, there's a case which basically is the defense boys will be boys.
No.
The judge actually says it. So it's like it's a battery case. So 2 boys were like doing some rough housing at like high school or whatever, and like the one seriously injured the other one. And so they brought it, and like it was an issue of like, did he consent to it, and like how can you know, like what's the level and what's the like what becomes consensual and what becomes, you know, you cannot consent to this thing. And the judge was just like, this is part of the rough and tumble of boys just being boys, so he's not actually guilty of battery. And it's just like, what?
It's just an honest mistake. Who among us hasn't almost murdered someone with their fists? Who among us, Chad?
Yeah. It's just a bit of rough and tumble. Come on. Yeah. So
what was
I was
your
very
opinion
mad.
on like his mentor figure / friend / drunk buddy?
Problematic leech guy. I don't know. I'm honestly perplexed by Coughlin's character.
Yeah.
Because dude stayed in his lane for a long time. He was like very content with his life, just being a manager of this bar, whatever. He was just hoping to land it big, and then he fucked it. I think the dynamic between them was poisonous.
Oh, totally.
But him as a character by himself, pretty great. But the introduction of O'Flanagan was the problem, I think. What do you think?
No, I think that was maybe where this movie missed out a little bit, because I thought the relationship was like really interesting. Because essentially, you know, what's his name? The dude?
Coughlin.
Coughlin is kind of like, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on people who bartend for a career. It's an important job, and I love the bartenders in my life. But he's just like this guy who, like you said, he stayed in his lane. He's just kind of a drunk. And kind of an asshole about everything. Like, he's like, oh, I don't want to work for money. I want to bartend. Like, that's not working. And I just want to marry a rich woman so that like I don't have to do that much work. So he's just kind of a drunk loser. Not because he's a bartender, just because of his general like approach to life. But obviously, like, this young Flanagan,
yeah.
Yeah,
I also thought of
Flanagan.
Flanagan. No.
It's too Irish.
No, it's too Irish.
This young guy like meets him, and obviously he seems really cool because he's this older dude who's like got it all figured out, supposedly. And I would have been really interested to see that relationship change over time. But it doesn't really, because even when they meet again in Jamaica 2 years later, and you'd think Flanagan would be a little more jaded about him, he gets goaded into cheating on his girlfriend very easily.
Yeah, it's barely like a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's just, to be fair, it's also because his mates are around him. Like, that's the only reason. Like, his friends are there, like, goading him on even worse. And so he's just like, yeah, I've got to do this, which is insane.
And even, like, you know, he runs back into him again when he's like, oh, I'll want to work for you again. And, like, the dude is this fucking sad guy who squandered the chance that he had, kind of thing. And Flanagan still looks up to him. And even after he kills himself, the only takeaway he had was like, oh, Coughlin had too much pride.
Like, that's wrong. What?
I think it could have been this interesting arc of like, you know, meeting your heroes and understanding the mentor figures in your life and realizing that they're not perfect and like growing past them and stuff. And they kind of did that, but very poorly.
No, completely agree with you. And I think this movie suffers from what I'm gonna dub the Grease phenomenon.
Yeah.
Not the Grease phenomenon. The Saturday Night Fever phenomenon. Okay. If you think about the movie Saturday Night Fever, you think it's like a really fun, great movie that's just fantastic. It's actually really fucking hardcore because someone like tries to commit suicide in the end of that movie. Like it is rough. So it's not actually a fun movie. It's actually really intense and very powerful movie. And I think this movie suffers from that a little bit in itself, but the difference is that movie, society has put its own spin on it.
Yeah.
But this movie shows a loser staying a loser and not achieving his goals because he's a shitty person, but tries to make it happy. Like it applies this fundamental jovial feel on it, where in fact it could be a really good moral story.
Yeah.
But it just decided to be like, no, hippie hippie shake. Like
the ending just also leaves you really unsatisfied because you're like, well, he actually hasn't really changed his tune, and now he also hasn't even achieved the dream he wanted. He's just like doing the right thing and staying with the girl he knocked up. So you're just like, so I'm sad, but I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Maybe
and
poor Elizabeth Shue is the real loser here. I think we can all agree.
Yeah. She, like, how is that relationship gonna go for her? Like, because she's
would
lost
not
her
give
family.
that man the time of day if I were her. I also wouldn't have kept the babies, but that's just.
No.
If she was really rich in the 80s, she could have gotten access to a safe abortion. It's fine. It's fine.
Exactly. And her dad would have paid for it. Wouldn't have been an issue.
Would not have cared.
No. One last thing I just want to mention before we move on is that fucking awful professor at his college. Like, I hate people like that, and I hate that whole teaching style. Drives me crazy. Did you ever have a lecturer like that?
Like, well, I think the script was written by someone who's never actually been to business school class or like a business class, because like the whole exercise of like, oh, you need to put together a business plan. As long as you can back up your business idea with research, like you can go for anything. They're like the lecturer shouldn't have been like, oh, this is a dumb business idea, when like especially Tom Cruise's one was fine, and if he had the research to back it up, it should have been fine. And also, this is just a business class. It's just an exercise showing that they know how to make a business plan. The actual business itself shouldn't matter that much.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, he was such an asshole. But then also Tom Cruise was an asshole for going to like 5 business classes and being like, I know better than my professor. I think I understand business pretty well, so.
It's again the white guy syndrome.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I've seen a YouTube video on this. I know a little bit more than you do on this specific
I think
subject.
I can run a successful business.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is bonkers. Like that they could just like that scene was included in its entirety, and yeah. I mean, to be fair, like you said, his business idea was really sensible because it was essentially Hooters, right?
Yeah,
it's a bar that's cross country. Yeah, simple as that. So is there a scene that could have saved it for you? A single scene, a change of theme, even?
Honestly, I would have liked the girlfriend to still reject him. Just be like, no, you don't get everything you want. I don't care how much you want it. You don't get it. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I just wish one person had told him that.
Yeah, that would have been good. Just like a slight moment of realization.
Yeah, Elizabeth Shue just being like, fuck off.
Yeah, I hate you. Just leave me alone.
Actually, the worst. You are such a child.
Yeah, I mean that scene where they are, where he comes back to meet her at her apartment, and he like essentially just like gaslights her, and just trying to make it like
it's so
that
horrible.
Scene is fucking outrageous.
It's so upsetting.
I was so mad. Yeah, for me, I think the pregnancy thing should have been bigger. Like, fuck off, Coughlin, and all that nonsense. After you've caused the problems, like, you know, in Jamaica, just like you disappear from the script completely, and let's focus on the really important bit about, you know, the development of their relationship, about the pregnancy, because that is actually what matters. Don't give a shit about Coughlin in the second half of this movie. No. So yeah, like just develop their relationship a bit more, especially because like Elizabeth Shue doesn't get enough screen time.
No,
She's
she
too good.
definitely doesn't. Oh, final question for you, actually, Chad. I assume neither of us are going to watch this again.
Oh, not even a little bit.
No,
Yeah. And
no.
if you've never seen this before, if you've waited, came out in 88, so that's what, 38 years? No?
Yeah. Plus,
Science and maths.
don't make me do it, please.
It's around about 38 years, you guys.
Yeah.
You know, if you have waited this long to see this movie, you can wait until your death. Like, you don't need to put this in your life.
No, even my dad, who like loves all things from the 80s and like views that whole era with like rose tinted glasses. I was like, oh, I watched Cocktail. He was like, yeah, that's not very good. So.
Oh, I love your dad so much.
So, okay, final question. Have you been to like a bar where they're doing all the fancy cocktail tricks and stuff? And do you enjoy it?
No, I've never been to a bar where they do the fancy cocktail flippy dippy dippies, but I do enjoy that bit. I mean, I will ask you the same question when we get to Coyote Ugly as well. But yeah, so no, I haven't. I think that would stress me out to no end because it's glass. Have you?
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously a couple of pretentious cocktail bars around Cape Town. Like, I think it's very cool. As always, it's cool seeing someone who's like good at their craft do things. But like, so it means the drinks are gonna be like way more expensive, or like triple the price that they needed to be. I went to a really nice bar. It was like for like an evening, so I was like, you know what, let me just order, like, do the thing, order the cocktail. So I ordered actually an old fashioned, and it was like they like smoke the glass and like pour and like do this, and then the guy does his little twist of orange over the top, and like it took for fucking ever. I was like,
just want my drink.
That's definitely an old fashioned that I just paid like 100 rand for.
So you would say the payoff is just not there?
I think if like that's what you want from the evening, like that's cool, and you're like ready to pay that price point. But like it's not for me. I'm not that kind of gal most of the time. It was really just for like an event. That was fun. But like, would I go to a bar like that on a regular basis? No, and if I did, I'd be like, please, like, you don't have to do this again. Like, I've seen it. I've seen you just pour the drink.
Just pour the fucking drink. I just want to drink and suffer the fact that I've paid so much money for your dumb beverage where you are definitely cheating me on the alcohol without a question.
I don't think smoking the glass makes a difference at all, my guy, but, you know, power to you.
Oh, I've got a fun game we can play before we move on to your movie.
Okay.
All right, so I want you to name 3 actors. Okay, there are 9 actors who were considered for this role before Tom Cruise. But I want you to name 3 if you can. Now, to preface this, think of the most outrageous, not Tom Cruise people you can ever imagine. And then you are on the right track. And then I will name all 9.
Okay. I'm going to say Kevin Costner.
Close, but no.
Patrick Swayze?
No, that's too Tom Cruise-y.
Oh my God. Keanu Reeves.
Ding, ding, ding. You got 1.
Yes!
You got 1. Keanu Reeves. You've got Tom Hanks.
What?
Wait for it.
Tom Hanks would have made this movie delightful. So charming. Wish him all the best.
Rob Lowe.
Okay, sure. He was a heartthrob in the 80s. I get it. I can see it.
Complete left turn. Bill Murray. Complete left turn. John Travolta.
Sure. Same religion, sure.
Yeah. Jeff Bridges.
That's strong jaw. They're gonna let that near some breakable glass? Come on.
Michael Keaton.
Sure. Okay. I can see
Going
it.
from Batman to Cocktail. Interesting. And then last but not least, the weirdest of all, Robin Williams.
Honestly, he could have made it a lovely, charming, like witty twist on an actually very boring character. Maybe.
I would. To be fair, I would watch the shit out of that rather than what we
check
watched.
It out, yeah.
And then there are 2 others whose names I can't remember. I've only got their photos here because I made it a post for this week. But Yeah. So how it seems
Huh.
like they only wanted white men. There was nothing else in the character description. They were just like,
Yeah.
we just want a white man.
Maybe a strong jaw if you can. I've got to say, the more movies I watch from like the early 2000s and 80s and 90s, the more that I am into young Keanu Reeves. Like, I know I'm late to the party, but that man,
He is phenomenal
what are you
as a
doing,
human.
Keanu?
He needs to stop it. He
Oh my
needs
God.
to put it away. Just put the charm and charisma away, and just so we can get on with our life.
I just,
And the greatest part about it is he's not an asshole. Like he's the
No.
nicest guy in
so
Hollywood.
nice.
So it's disgusting. He needs to stop it.
Yeah, stop it, Keanu.
So Simone, talk to me about Coyote Ugly and tell me how you spell coyote, please.
Coyote.
That is dumb. It shouldn't have an O in the beginning. But yeah, I'm mad about it.
Okay. Let me explain this plot to you. Okay. Violet Sanford, played by Piper Perabo, is a young girl who's out to follow her dream of becoming a songwriter. So she moves all the way to New York from New Jersey, where she's going to start pursuing her dream, leaving behind her dad, Bill, played by John Goodman, and her best friend, Gloria, played by Melanie Linsky. While she's in New York, she finds things are a little harder than she thought they'd be. No one wants to hear her demo tapes, and she doesn't want to sing at live mic nights because she has massive stage fright, which she says she got from her late mother. Enter Kevin O'Donnell, played by Adam Garcia, a handsome Australian who she meets under some dodgy circumstances, but he quickly charms his way into her heart. At the same time, while she's sitting at a diner wondering what the hell she's going to do, she overhears a bunch of girls talking about their latest shift and just flashing the cash that they got from it. The girls are Cami, played by Isabella Miko, Zoe, played by Tyra Banks, and Rachel, played by Bridget Moynihan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Moynihan.
Turns out that the girls are coyotes. They work at a bar called Coyote Ugly, run by Lil, played by Maria Bello. There, they dance on the bar and serve drinks to a bunch of angry men and get massive thanks for it. So Violet decides she's going to try and get a job there. She succeeds after showing how spunky and scrappy she can be and has to learn how to slut it up and gain some confidence in order to succeed, which she does. She does really well. And her relationship with Kevin kind of takes off. It's sexy and it's fun, and she's feeling really inspired, so she's working on all these amazing songs. And then obviously things have to go wrong. It all comes to a head after her dad, Bill, sees her performing at the bar and is very disappointed in her. At the same time, Kevin really goes out on a limb and trades one of his favorite comic books for her to get to an open mic night, which she's too scared to do, and anyway has to stay at the bar to work to do it. When Kevin goes to the bar to confront her, they both get kicked out because he fights one of the patrons, and she loses her job because one of the rules at Coyote Ugly is you're not allowed to bring your boyfriend to the bar. Everything's looking bad, especially because Bill has a car accident and she has to go visit him. That's when Bill reminds her that actually no, her mom didn't have stage fright. She just kind of gave it up because she wanted to be a mom. So she needs to work on it. That's when she starts sending out her mixtapes again, working on herself, working in a much tamer bar, and things get better. She gets a gig at an open mic night that people are really keen to see her perform, and lots of industry executives are there, and everybody, all of the coyotes and stuff, rally around her. She gets Kevin back, and basically it's implied that she's a big success. The end.
Ah, that's lovely. I have 2 questions for you as well. So first of all, do you rock the moon like me?
You know I do, and also you can't fight the moonlight. No
Is
matter
that
what
the
you do.
actual lyrics are?
Yeah.
I thought it was you can't rock the moon like me.
No, it's you can't fight the moonlight.
Oh, right, okay. That makes a little more sense.
You've never heard Leanne Rhymes before now?
Of course I've heard the song before, and I've always thought it was you can't rock the moon like me. I thought it was like a really sexy song, like you can't rock the moon like
Okay,
me. I can
hear
fuck it up. Yeah. And then the second question, of course, is what is your cliffhanger?
My cliffhanger has obviously got to be this, and it's the clip of Lil explaining what Coyote Ugly means.
Yes. Okay. Fantastic.
Iconic.
Yes, and it's. I mean, we're both very monogamous people. We don't really do one night stands. Have you ever been in a Coyote Ugly situation?
I'm happy to say I haven't. I don't think I've like. I
Mhm.
mean, after I first hooked up with Rudy, I was like, Sarah, I did something bad. But it's fine now. We're together, so it wasn't that bad.
I don't know if you want me to keep that in or not. That's
No, he
completely up
knows.
to
He
you.
knows. Don't worry.
Okay, cool, fantastic. Yeah, I've never. Well, I mean, yeah, with you remember like your best friend when we hooked up.
She was not my best friend, but okay.
No, I'm totally joking. Obviously, she was stunning. I just wanted to try and get a rise, which didn't work. You're too calm, cool, and collected.
Look, you can live your life. You're both two consenting adults. I'm not like the keeper of her virginity, so.
But no, she was fantastic and lovely and broke my heart as per always. Um,
You always go for the unavailable ones, Chad.
it's my best trait. Um, so I mean, why you watched this a lot as a kid?
Yes,
correct? That's
for
what you
some
said to me.
reason.
So what? Yeah, like what was that like when you were younger that really drew you to this movie?
I think like obviously watching it later now, I'm like, this is very inappropriate for a child to watch because they're essentially
Mhm.
like cool go-go dancers, right? With
Yeah,
more clothes on.
yeah.
But I think, this is very early 2000s. Like it's got all the beautiful outfits. Violet's got this amazing hair the whole time that I'm
Mhm.
obsessed with. And they always look like they're having fun. Like their dad's like at the bar. They're just having a good time. And you're like, yeah, I want a bunch of close girlfriends who I dance on
Mhm.
a bar with to fun music. Like that sounds like a time. And obviously, like now having like worked in the service industry and stuff, I'm like, oh, I'd
Mhm.
hate everything about that job.
Mhm.
I would never go to that bar. Um,
No.
but it is what it is. And it's a story about a girl with a dream who meets a very handsome Australian man that she pimps out.
Yeah, yeah. It's the definition of the boy meets girl situation, isn't it? I
Mm,
mean, boy meets girl, girl pimps out boy.
mm. They go on a
Happily
couple
ever after.
dates. True love.
Yeah, yeah. I think what really upset me about this movie is when do they sleep?
Mm,
Like that was really stressing me out the whole time I watched this because it was just sort of like, all right, we're at this bar all night and then we like hang out until like 4 in the morning and then we go
hmm.
and do shit during the day. Are you crazy?
Yeah.
No, go to bed.
I think that it was interesting that they kind of low key point out that for Violet, if she wants to get into the music industry, you have to have a day job. You can't have a
Yeah,
nighttime job because that's when all the music industry stuff happens.
yeah, exactly. Like it just made no sense.
Yeah. But good for her. She got some dancing on bar confidence, which don't we all need some of
Exactly.
that?
We do. We really, really
Mm,
do. I mean, it would just make the world a better place if we all
mm,
danced in the bar at least once.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, what did you like about it now? 20 years later,
Yeah.
here we are in a modern setting. What did you think?
Look, I think it's still a lot of it is really fun, right? Like the outfits are
Mm-hmm.
fun and the dance numbers are fun and they're just at this bar and they're like, you can't order water here. We only sell like 5 types of alcohol and it only comes in a shot glass or a beer bottle. Like, how ridiculous. What silly clothes. And then like I guess it's like this weird hope and optimism from the early 2000s, which is like very
Mm-hmm.
young millennials, or I guess older millennials now.
Mm-hmm.
At the time they were young. um this just message of hope, like, if you go to the big city and you work hard enough and you work on yourself, like eventually someone's gonna spot you and you're gonna make it big.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's
cute.
the, it's the, it's our American dream, and it's quite fantastic to see the difference between films about baby boomers' American
Yeah,
dreams versus our American dreams. And I mean, this episode could be called the American Dream episode
yeah,
because it's essentially that's what it is. And I think that's the thing that like I don't know about you, but like when I was growing up or like when I finished uni, it was sort of just like if you didn't get your job that you wanted, you would go work in a bar. There's
yeah,
always bar work.
yeah,
It's sort of the job that you fall back on. It's
yeah,
the foundation upon which you rise. And I think that's a fantastic culture that we've developed over time as
Yeah.
people is that there is always bar work, and bar work is literally the quintessential thing you need to do when you start out. It's
Yeah.
just a thing that happens.
You've got
And
to
that's
put
kinda
your hours
cool.
in. You gotta. I really genuinely think everybody should work a service industry job at least once in
Yes.
their lives, like
Yes.
just to teach you not to be an asshole to people in the service industry.
Yeah, because it is, fuck me, I mean, that is the hardest job in the world.
It's
Like, I don't care what
awful.
else you do, that
It's
is an
awful.
awful job. Yeah. Yeah, man, I mean, this is my first time watching this film,
Yeah,
and,
I want to hear
like,
your like impressions.
I really like this film. It's so 2000s, it hurt. Like, I love movies like this that really force in a song that is, the song and the movie are, like, tied together forever. And that's what this film did. It's sort of like We Need a Hero to Save Us, or whatever it's called, from Nickelback and Spider-Man.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
those two, like, that's a thing. Like, there's a theme. Jamiroquai and Godzilla. There are like, that is such a wonderfully 2000s thing, and we just don't do it anymore. And I think we need to go back to a life where that is a thing, where they, like, really force that synergy and vertical integration the shit out of the film. I loved sort of the sort of sexual innuendo in it. I loved, you know, the cat and mouse of it. I loved how innocent that was. I loved the extended sex scene that really made no sense because she still had her G-string on the whole time. But you know what? It was, you know what? It is so wonderfully 2000s, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah. I would say that there are also, much like in Cocktail, there's some moments where you're like, this is actually really dark. Like when that riot breaks out in the bar,
Yeah,
and like the one
shit.
girl gets like dragged into the crowd.
I was so worried about her.
Yeah, you're just like, what are they doing to her? Like, and that's scary. I think, like, obviously it was the 2000s, so they did want to touch on like how horrible it is being a woman in the service industry, especially at bars where drunk men think that like you want to have sex with them because you're serving them drinks. They don't really touch on that side of things so much. Like, you know, they pour ice on the dudes and the dudes are like, ah, okay, fair enough. They got me. I was being a pig. What are you gonna do?
If only it was that easy.
In a perfect world, when guys, like, you threw some ice on dudes and they're like, you know what? I was being disgusting. You're right. Fair enough.
I think that would solve so many problems. Like, could you imagine it's just like, well, don't you think all lives matter? And then you just throw ice on them and they're like, oh, wow, yeah, you're actually right. What? Black lives do matter. Shit. Yeah. Good point. I
was blatantly ignoring the systemic issues that you were trying to discuss.
Oh, God. Truth ice. Someone needs to make truth ice. Yeah.
Get on it,
But
guys.
even that scene, like, even however problematic it was solved in the most 2000s way, which is by a song. Yeah.
I feel terrible because I have this vision always of that, like, not working, and now it's just like there's a full-on riot and everything is going wrong and her friend's like getting murdered and she's like singing into the noise.
That would be so good. One way or another. And it's just going to shit. Oh my God, that would have been so funny. Scenes we didn't see, man. Oh, that would have been brilliant. Yeah. Okay, so what is your scene that could have saved it, if there is one?
None. This is a perfect 90s, early 2000s movie. It is exactly what it is. I don't want to inject any cynicism into it. I don't want to inject any realism into it. I just want to go to a bar like this, know all the steps to Devil Went Down to Georgia that they do, dance on the bar, and then go home at a reasonable hour, you know?
I mean, you can't have both worlds. You're not going to go home at a reasonable hour. Come on.
I mean, by the time Devil Went Down to Georgia starts, it's like, what, 1 a.m? Yeah,
that's too late already. Simone is in the corner sleeping.
I still just want to know all the steps. Get up there in my little tank top, dance a bit, then be like, okay, cheers, guys.
There was that one scene, though, before I go into my scene that could have saved it, like, where they're, like, taking off their bras, like, all the women are, like, on the thing taking off the bras, and I was like, where is this going? This turned weird very quickly.
Yeah, I can't see a scenario where I would take my bra off in public, never mind in front of a crowd. No. Especially because, like, bras are expensive.
Yes.
I'm not just going to chuck it out there. Come on.
That's insanity. No, absolutely not. For me, to be honest, I do have a suit that could have saved it, and I know it goes against everything 2000s, but I just want some real resolution. Like, her dad gets hit with the car and everything's fine. Cool, excellent, great. She kind of just, like, laughs it off that she fucked over that guy, like, her Australian heartthrob,
Yeah.
and, like, everything's now fine. Like, no, let's have
Yeah.
some real resolution where she's just like, oh, fuck, I fucked up, I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Well, she does buy him the copy of the comic back.
Yeah, she does.
So-
So yeah, okay. I think it would have been great if they like really leaned into the 2000s though as well, and she just won everyone over with song. Like she just sang to her
Let me sing a
father, and he
song
was
for you.
healed. And it goes a little bit like this: today is gonna be the day that they're gonna throw it back to you.
Oh, if only.
So, I mean, this is a really obvious one, but would you watch it again?
Honestly, probably. Like, I've seen it so many times now that, like, I can't watch it again for a while. But I
Mhm.
didn't mind watching it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is the good side of the 2000s. This is the side that you want to see.
I basically
Um,
watching it now, I just skip to all the dance numbers and then, like, I was like, sick. I'm done.
Ace. Yeah, like I would definitely watch this again. Like I waited 26 years of my life to watch it, and I'm sad that I missed out on so much good times. But I mean, I would watch it again, and I will show my kids this film because I want them to know what the 2000s were about.
Another question, would you go to that bar? Like, not frequently, but like, would you check it out? Like, if your friend was like, oh yeah, it's this bar where like, you know, people get a little crazy and they only sell like 5 beverages and like girls sometimes set the bar on fire. Like,
How did we not talk about that? I will
Yes!
answer your question about after the huge safety issue that is the bar on fire.
that
Like,
bar is steady as fuck. They set it on fire, they get it wet, they stomp on it. They're like that, like whoever constructed that countertop should get a
Oh.
prize.
they should. That is engineer of the century, not
Yeah.
even engineer of the year. Like, how, like, so it's burning, you're dancing on it, that's cool. But eventually that novelty is going to wear off and people are going to be like, okay, guys, this is on fire. Like, this is really serious. Like, we need to put this out. It's a very weird situation.
I mean, surely the vapors go away after a while, so like the fire sort of peters out, or you chuck some water on it or something.
You would hope so. I really do hope so. Would I? No. And it's not because I don't want to see the beautiful girls dancing. And it's not because a club that only serves 5 drinks would like annoy me, because it wouldn't. I would just order a beer or whatever and it'd be fine. It's the crowdedness. I hate crowds so much.
Yeah.
Like I had a freak out at Rockin' the Daisies the one year because there was just too many people around and someone's smoke fumes were going in my eyes and I just had to leave. Like I couldn't do it. So that is the only reason why I wouldn't go. I'd go like in the beginning when it's still like empty, and then I would leave like when it started getting full. How about you?
I wouldn't personally treat it as like a bar experience. I treat it as like I'm going to see a performance, like going to see a band or something, you know?
Okay.
So then I like expect like crowds and stuff like that, because I'm not going there to chill out and drink and have a good time. They're going there to like see a performance, like interact, have a drink, and then like go the fuck somewhere else, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just a little too much stress.
Yeah.
Like it's a little too high
Yeah.
high altitude for me. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a fun week.
That
I've
actually
had
really
a
was.
great time. I've enjoyed happy hour. So thank you to the Twitter follower of ours who suggested that. It was brilliant. We really do appreciate it. And guys, if you have any other suggestions for things we can do, please holler at us. Like you guys know what you want to listen to. So shoot us a message and we will definitely do whatever you say. Maybe, potentially. I don't want to say that without a caveat. So Simone, what is your optimistic thing for this week?
So my favorite, or like our usual bar, opened back up and we went through yesterday.
Yes.
Chad, like obviously I missed their drinks and stuff, and that was nice, but I also missed their chips. They have the chips with garlic aioli that are so good.
Ooh.
And I hadn't had them for months and months, and I got to have them
Yeah.
yesterday, and I was transported. I was so happy. And like while we were there, the band that usually plays there was playing, so there was like lovely live music that we've really missed.
Oh, that's
and it
so
was just
nice.
it was really good. It
That's
was
so
lovely.
wonderful.
Mm.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. That's great.
Yeah.
Nicely
And,
done. That's
what was
beautiful.
your optimistic thing?
So we recorded on Wednesday, and
Yes.
it is now Sunday. So there is not been a
No.
lot of time for me to have an optimistic thing. So I'm gonna do a bit of a cop out this week, and I'm just gonna say life in general,
Mm.
because I don't think we appreciate how lucky we are.
Totally.
You know. I mean, my eyesight is really shit, but I can still see, and I've got 2 ears and a heart that works and lungs, and I go for a run every day, and I have a great best friend,
Hey.
and I've got, an amazing podcast. I've got amazing people around me. And you know what? I think sometimes it's just a really good idea to just sit back and go, fuck me, life is pretty amazing. Out of,
Yeah.
a million sperm, I was the one that got through. This is pretty sweet. Like, this is a pretty cool deal.
Oh, yeah, that's
So-
lovely.
so
And
yeah.
you've got 2
Yeah.
kittens around. That always like
Fuck those assholes. They were such a
No, it's
nightmare,
so
and I hate them.
cute. You sent me a picture today. You had a bouquet of kittens. They were just in a jug together.
We'll put that on the Instagram after the episode
Please,
drops,
yeah.
just so people can see my bouquet of kittens. They are ragamuffin gremlins, and I do love them, but they are such a pain in the ass. They're in that kitten stage where they're
Yeah.
just like so annoying. But I do love them, and they are super cute. Yeah.
I'm just very
So-
jealous. Like I love having kittens
Yeah.
around. I think I'm still seeing it like rose tinted,
Mhm.
like. But there's just something about like watching kittens play and be like ridiculous that puts so much joy in your heart until they start
Yeah.
destroying something, and then
Yeah, it's that point where they're just on the floor. They're not messing with anything else.
Yeah.
They're just on the floor that you're just like, this is nice. I like this. This can stay. Yeah.
or if
yeah.
when they fall asleep and they crash so hard.
It's unbelievable. Like,
Yeah.
it's just literally like crests and troughs. Like, it makes no sense. But yeah, like, and when they decide to come and sleep on you for the first time, it's just like, I'm honored. Thank you.
Best.
Best. So Simone, I have an idea for next week. I don't know if you've got anything.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know how you feel about these movies. For some reason, we've never spoken about them before. We've never even mentioned them. I don't even know how you feel about this specific actor.
Oh God.
I'm thinking, Simone, Pink Panther week. Pink Panther 1, Pink Panther 2.
Did they do poorly?
21% and 13% on the Rotten Tomatoes meter.
Jeez. And these are the Steve
know.
Martin ones.
Yeah, like those are the Steve Martin ones. So it could be either a Pink Panther week or a Steve Martin week, but I'm thinking a Pink Panther week.
Yeah, let's do a Pink Panther week.
Yeah, I think that's fun. That'll be nice. And I think since I went first this week, you should do Pink Panther 1 because we're gonna
Okay,
have to obviously
sure.
do them in chronological order.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Easy.
Fantastic. I'm really excited because I love Steve Martin. He is so funny.
I get mixed. I have mixed feelings about Steve Martin. Like it depends on the
Oh,
role
yeah?
for me. So
What's your
We'll see.
favorite Steve Martin role?
don't put me on the spot like this. Like I don't know.
I loved him. I loved his little cameo in 30 Rock. That was funny.
Yes, he was a very rich man that Liz
Yeah,
briefly dated.
Fundeleur,
Yeah.
who was under house arrest for like company fraud and fell in love with Liz.
Who among us wouldn't?
Exactly. She is our spirit animal. Well, thank you guys for listening, and thank you again for the suggestion. And even though we're all so far away and you're listening to this over the airways, cheers.
Cheers.
Clink, 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 clink.
Clink, clink.
And I hope you guys are drinking too while you're listening to this happy hour episode. We thank you so much for listening. We really do appreciate it. I'm sorry for my aggressive stance at the beginning. I forget
Yeah.
who I am sometimes, and I forget
Mhm.
that a relationship is about compromise. A relationship is about knowing what the other person wants, and it's about this mutual respect and love and adoration. And you know what? We do love you, and we do respect you, and we do adore you. And if you want to tell us how much you respect, love, and adore us, you can do that too. And where can they do that, Simone?
They can talk to us on Facebook or Instagram at Fresh Tomatoes Podcast, at Twitter at Fresh Tomatoes MP. They can email us at freshtomatoespodcast@gmail.com, and they can click on the link to our website down below.
boom, boom, and boom town. And guys, thank you again for listening to us. And please do write comments. Please do give us 5-star ratings, 4-star ratings. It really does help us like get up the algorithm. And as you are probably well aware of how things work, it is really helpful. Yeah. And as we say at the end of every episode, we love you and there's nothing you can do about it.
We love you and there's nothing you can do about it. Bye.
Goodbye. Nice.